Picture this: while Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, lived in Mecca for years, there was never a single mention of Jews. The moment he arrived in Medina, the city was already bustling with Jewish communities. Why were they there? The answer lies in an ancient prophecy. The Jews had known for over 1,000 years that a final prophet would emerge from Medina and its surrounding areas. This knowledge drew them to settle there, generation after generation, waiting for the promised messenger. Fast forward to about 70 years ago. 3 Arab shepherds were wandering through the hills of Palestine when they stumbled upon a cave. Inside, they found ancient jars containing scrolls and papers from a bygone era. Not knowing their value, they sold them in the market for a few coins. These scrolls eventually reached an American scientist, John C. Trevor, who immediately recognized them as portions of the Torah, written in an unusual style, completely different from any known version. Through carbon dating, he discovered something extraordinary. These were at least 2,200 years old, predating even Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. These became known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, among the oldest copies of biblical texts ever discovered. Within these ancient scrolls was a prophecy from Prophet Isaiah, recognized as a true prophet by both Christians and Muslims. Isaiah had written about future events, and one prophecy stood out: "Behold, my servant, whom I uphold. I will put my spirit upon him, and he will bring justice to the nations. He will not falter or be discouraged till he establishes justice on earth. I will not give my glory to idols. Let the settlements where Kedar resides rejoice. Let the people of Selah cry out from the mountaintops." Let's break this down. Kedar was the second son of Ishmael, Abraham's son. His descendants established a great kingdom in Arabia. Prophet Muhammad himself descended from this lineage of Kedar. The prophecy mentioned idol worship, and at that time, most idol worship in the world existed in Arabia. But here's where it gets fascinating. The prophecy specifically mentions Selah, a place where people would climb mountains and shout in joy. Search Selah, Arab, Saudi Arabia on Google Maps right now. You'll find yourself looking at a mountain that still exists today in Medina. Not just anywhere in Medina, but the closest mountain to the Prophet's mosque, just 500 meters away. The Torah was telling the Jews, go to this exact place. Prophet will come here. Because of these prophecies written in their own holy book, Jews gradually migrated from Palestine to Medina and the surrounding areas, hoping to meet this promised prophet. They made Khaybar, the city closest to Medina, their headquarters. The Arabs of Medina were deeply impressed by Jewish knowledge and business acumen, much like the world is today. As Jewish populations grew, conflicts arose between them and the Arab tribes. The Jews would often warn, "Do what you want today. When our prophet comes, we will not spare you." This struck fear in the hearts of Medina's Arabs for generations, and one day, a man named Mus'ab bin Umair arrived from Mecca with astonishing news. An Arab prophet had emerged in Mecca, but his own people rejected him. The people of Medina were stunned. Could this be the very prophet the Jews had been threatening them with for centuries? Without hesitation, they became the first city to embrace Islam, before the Jews themselves. When the Jews learned that their prophet was an Arab, they flatly denied him. Some Jewish scholars did convert and even gave their lives for Islam, discovering in the Torah clear references to Muhammad, peace be upon him. This is why the Christian priest sent Salman the Persian to Medina, saying, "A prophet will arise there." But most Jews rejected the prophet and conspired against him at every turn, until the Battle of Khaybar shattered their power in Arabia forever. The wealth they had accumulated over centuries fell into Muslim hands, and Mecca realized, after Khaybar, they were next. We all know that Abraham built the Kaaba in Mecca, yet Jews and Christians who accept Abraham as a true prophet give all importance to Jerusalem and dismiss Mecca as just another city, claiming it has no connection to Abraham's God. But their own Torah clearly states that God's house is in Mecca. During World War II, as Jews lined up before Nazi gas chambers awaiting death, one prayer was on every lip: 84. Psalm 84 is found in the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible's book of Psalms, one of the most important Jewish texts. It contains 3 main sections: the Torah revealed to Moses, the prophets, and the writings, which includes the Psalms revealed to David. The Zabur in Islamic tradition. Psalm 84 reads, "How lovely is your dwelling place, O mighty Lord." Blessed are those who dwell in your house and worship you continually. Their hearts are set on pilgrimage. As they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. They go from strength to strength, or more accurately in Hebrew, from mountain to mountain. This clearly describes Baca, an ancient name for Mecca, a dry valley with a spring, Zamzam, and people going from mountain to mountain, Safa to Marwa. The Quran confirms this in Surah Al-Imran. Indeed, the first house established for mankind was that at Baca, blessed and a guidance for the worlds. Both the Quran and Torah call Mecca by its ancient name. Muslims initially prayed toward Jerusalem. Then one day, during prayer in Medina, Allah commanded Prophet Muhammad to turn 180 degrees toward the Kaaba. The entire congregation turned mid-prayer, establishing Mecca as the new Qibla. Jews mocked this, claiming Muslims had abandoned the true Qibla for a fabricated one. But history proves otherwise. Jews and historians agree that Solomon's temple in Jerusalem was built 3,000 years ago. The Kaaba, however, was built by Abraham, lived thousands of years before Solomon came. Muslims didn't invent a new Qibla, they returned to the original. One of the Quran's greatest predictions concerned the Roman Empire itself, at a time when this superpower was on the verge of total collapse. 8 years before Revelation began, war erupted between the Roman and Persian empires, like if America and China went to full-scale war today. Persia devastated Rome. The entire world believed the Roman Empire, a superpower for 1,000 years, was finished. The Roman Empire was no small matter. Its influence echoes even today. July is named after Julius Caesar, August after Emperor Augustus, and the planets, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, are named after Roman gods. By the time Islam emerged, Rome had split into Eastern and Western empires. The Western Empire gradually collapsed, but the Eastern Byzantine Empire remained a superpower until Persia began crushing it. Persia couldn't have succeeded alone. They had support from Rome's own people, who had revolted after Emperor Phocas brutally murdered the beloved Emperor Maurice, his wife, and 8 children, displaying their heads throughout Constantinople. As Rome weakened and Persia captured Syria, Egypt, and Palestine, even destroying the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and taking the true cross, the Persian king sent a mocking letter to the Roman Emperor Heraclius. From Khosrow, greatest of all gods, master of the whole world, to Heraclius, my insignificant slave, you say your God is mighty. Then where was he? Why didn't he save Jerusalem from me? In this darkest hour for Rome, and for Muslims facing persecution in Mecca, Allah revealed Surah Ar-Rum. The Romans have been defeated in a nearby land, but they, after their defeat, will overcome within a few years. And that day the believers will rejoice in the victory of Allah. 2 prophecies in one. Rome would win, and on that very day Muslims would celebrate their own victory. Mecca ridiculed this. Rome's survival seemed impossible, but Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, had such faith that he bet a pagan, if Rome doesn't win in 3 years, I'll give you 10 camels. If they do, you give me 10. When the Prophet learned of this, he said, make it 100 camels and extend the time to 10 years. The pagan eagerly agreed. Rome's victory seemed impossible. Even British historian Edward Gibbon, who wrote 6 volumes on Roman history, stated that 7 to 8 years later, there seemed no chance of this prophecy coming true. Persia had Constantinople surrounded, but Constantinople was impregnable. It wouldn't fall for another 900 years, until 21-year-old Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II conquered it by dragging ships over mountains. That's a story for another time. With Constantinople under siege, Emperor Heraclius wrote to the Persian king begging for mercy. We'll do whatever you want. Just let us live. Khosrow's response, only if you abandon Christianity and worship fire like us. Heraclius abandoned Constantinople and sailed to the northern side of Persia. The Pope gathered money from across Europe and sent it to Heraclius, declaring, "This isn't against you. It's against Christianity itself." Heraclius launched a surprise attack from the north while Persian forces were busy at Constantinople. He swept through city after city and finally reached their holiest city, Persia's Mecca, where their sacred eternal fire burned in the greatest temple. Heraclius destroyed it just as they had destroyed Jerusalem. The tide had turned. This was Rome's first major victory in years. They began reclaiming their lost empire, and at that exact time, 313 Muslims defeated the pagans of Mecca at the Battle of Badr, their first victory. The Quranic prophecy was fulfilled perfectly. Abu Bakr won his bet and received 100 camels, but gambling had become forbidden in Islam by then. So the Prophet ordered them distributed to the poor. Heraclius pressed forward until he surrounded the Persian capital. The Persian prince murdered his own father and 18 brothers, then surrendered to Rome, agreeing to return all captured territory and wealth. The same year, Muslims and Mecca's pagans signed the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, which the Quran called a clear victory, a treaty that changed Muslim destiny forever. Heraclius had become the world's most powerful emperor. After Hudaybiyah, Prophet Muhammad sent him a letter inviting him to Islam. Heraclius didn't accept. Within years, Muslims conquered nearly the entire Roman Empire, and the Persian Empire too. To this day, no one has reclaimed these lands from Muslims. You believe Muhammad went to heaven on a winged horse? The night journey and ascension occurred during the Prophet's most difficult time in Mecca. After the boycott, after losing his beloved uncle Abu Talib and wife Khadija, after being stoned in Ta'if until his shoes filled with blood, after Mecca revoked his citizenship, in this darkest hour, Allah granted him the greatest journey in human history, a journey like none before. Journey came in the 11th year of prophethood, almost exactly at the midpoint, and it was the turning point of his life. Before this, he endured hardship in Mecca. After this, he migrated to Medina, where he became a leader and king, and his life transformed completely. One night, Angel Gabriel brought the Burak, named after bark, for its lightning speed, and took the prophet from Mecca to Jerusalem Al-Aqsa Mosque. He led all the prophets in prayer. Then they ascended to the heavens. In the first heaven, he met Adam, the first human, with paradise on his right and hell on his left. All of humanity descends from him. In the second heaven, Jesus and John the Baptist, Isa and Yahya, cousins who lived under Roman occupation 2,000 years ago. John was martyred by a tyrant, his martyrdom often compared to Imam Hussein's at Karbala. Jesus was also to be killed, but Allah raised him. In the third heaven, Joseph, Yusuf, who went from slavery to becoming Egypt's viceroy 3,600 years ago, like becoming Britain's prime minister today. The Quran mentions Joseph 27 times, giving more detail than even the Bible. In the fourth heaven, Enoch, Idris, one of the first humans, the third prophet after Adam and Seth. He was the first to fight against injustice, the first scientist who used a pen, and the first to observe stars and planets to benefit humanity. In the fifth heaven, Aaron, Harun, Moses' brother and partner in prophethood. He was one of the greatest scholars among the children of Israel. To this day, the Jewish scholarly elite descend from Aaron, giving them special status in Judaism, like the status of Sayyids in Islam. In the sixth heaven, Moses, Musa, mentioned 136 times in the Quran, more than any other prophet. His story is considered the most interesting and outstanding in history. Hollywood's biggest films, Superman, Harry Potter, and many others, are inspired by Moses' story, earning billions of dollars. Moses' story? When Joseph became Egypt's prime minister, he brought his 11 brothers to settle there. Their descendants became the strongest, richest community. The Egyptians grew jealous and eventually enslaved the Israelites for 400 years of brutal oppression. Finally, through Moses, Allah freed them from Pharaoh. In the seventh heaven, Ibrahim, the prophet's great-great-great-grandfather. For thousands of years, Abrahamic religions have dominated. Today, 60% of the world follows these faiths. Muslims pray for Abraham 5 times daily. Then came Sidrat al-Muntaha, the ultimate boundary. No created being can go beyond. But the prophet was granted permission. He left Gabriel behind and proceeded alone into Allah's presence. The companions asked, "Did you see Allah?" He replied, "How could I? There was a veil of light." Here, the true purpose of this magnificent journey was revealed. Prayer was made obligatory, the most important command in Islam. For 1400 years, It has been performed in every corner of the world. Prayer wasn't made obligatory in Mecca because building a mosque was impossible there. But after the heavenly journey, Muslims migrated to Medina, built Islam's first mosque, and through prayer created such a disciplined, strong community that within years, they conquered the Roman and Persian superpowers. Initially, 50 daily prayers were prescribed. As the prophet descended, Moses advised him, "Your nation cannot perform 50 prayers. Go back and ask Allah to reduce them." The prophet returned, and Allah reduced them to 40. Moses again said, "Still impossible. Go back." This continued until prayers were fixed at 5. Moses still said, "Even 5 is too much." But the prophet said, "I feel shy to ask for further reduction. I accept 5. The prophet was shown paradise, hell, and the punishments of sinners. He returned to Jerusalem, then to Mecca, where everyone was still asleep. He had completed this entire journey in one night. How is this possible? According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not absolute. If one person moves at high speed and another stands still, they experience time differently. If someone travels near the speed of light, time moves extremely slowly for them. The Barak was named for its lightning speed. For the prophet, the night was very long. For everyone else, it was a normal night. When he shared this experience, Mecca mocked him. They questioned him about Jerusalem, somewhere he'd never been. But Allah displayed Jerusalem before his eyes like a screen, and he answered every question, shocking them. He even mentioned a caravan he'd seen on the way. That caravan arrived, confirming his words. This experience was so extraordinary that even some weak faith Muslims left Islam. Even the friend who had given the Prophet refuge didn't believe him. But when Abu Bakr heard the news, if the Messenger of Allah said it, then it is absolutely true. From that day, he was called Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the Truthful. This wasn't an ordinary journey. It ended Islam's difficult days and began its era of rise. The very next year, 72 people from Medina came to take the Prophet as their leader. During his ascension, the Prophet crossed stars, planets, and galaxies from earth to heaven. The Quran states that everything between heaven and earth prostrates to Allah. All stars, galaxies, planets, mountains, trees. But how? Prostration is a physical gesture. Has anyone ever seen stars and planets worshipping like us? Yet Allah repeatedly says in the Quran that all these things worship Him. So there must be something common among all things in the universe. For thousands of years, humanity believed Earth was the center of the universe and that it didn't rotate at all. But 400 years ago, Galileo, an Italian scientist, aligned 2 lenses and discovered he could see distant objects up close. Telescopes existed before, but only for military and naval purposes. Galileo was the first to point one at the sky, seeing the sun and moon in unprecedented detail. He observed their movements and made revolutionary discoveries. Jupiter was round, but its light changed on different days of the month. So did Venus and Saturn. This was only possible if these objects orbited the sun, not Earth. Galileo announced to the world, the universe's center isn't Earth, it's the sun. European churches became his enemies. The Pope believed Earth was the universe's center, as did the entire world. Galileo was sentenced to house arrest for life by the church, but he continued his work. Eventually, the world accepted his findings. Even the Pope, 350 years after Galileo's death, publicly apologized. "We were wrong. You were right." Gradually, we learned that Earth isn't the universe's center. It orbits the sun. The sun isn't significant either. It's one of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Billions of stars orbit in one circle around a supermassive black hole at the galaxy's center, 4 million times larger than our sun. Our galaxy isn't special. It's a small part of a cluster of millions of galaxies. These clusters form superclusters, and thousands of superclusters exist. Notice the common thread. Everything in the universe orbits something else. When the Prophet ascended to the heavens, he didn't see angels merely praying at Bait al-Mamur. They were orbiting something. But what does orbiting have to do with worship? Allah revealed this in Surah Al-Hajj, the chapter about pilgrimage. In Hajj, Muslims from across the world come to Islam's holiest place, the Kaaba, and repeatedly circle around it. What does this circling mean? When a Muslim circles the Kaaba, he's not alone. He joins the moon, planets, stars, galaxies, and clusters in the same act of worship. These celestial bodies don't worship like us. We travel to Mecca to worship like them. But the verse mentions prostration, not just orbiting. Sajda, prostration, doesn't just mean physical bowing. It means submitting to Allah's system. Yet, the verse doesn't only mention stars and galaxies. It includes mountains, trees, and animals. They don't orbit. Thousands of years ago in ancient Greece, philosophers theorized that everything was made of tiny particles called atoms. This was forgotten for 2,000 years until 200 years ago, when scientists discovered atoms aren't the smallest particles. Inside atoms are protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons and neutrons stay at the atom's center. Electrons constantly orbit around them, almost exactly like planets orbit the sun and stars orbit black holes. This means everything in the universe, whether it likes it or not, is performing tawaf, circumambulation. When a Muslim performs tawaf of the Kaaba, he joins everything from the smallest electron inside atoms to the largest objects in the universe, planets, stars, galaxies, and even angels at Bayt al-Ma'mur, in one unified act of worship. Perhaps this is why tawaf is the greatest act of worship in Islam. So when Allah says in Surah Al-Hajj that all these things worship Him, they don't worship like us. Rather, we go to Mecca to worship like them, by circling the Kaaba. But all these things have a fixed time for their orbits. When that time is complete, every soul will know what it brought. Before his death, the Prophet told his companions many things that would happen after he was gone. One day, Umar and other companions sat with the Prophet in the mosque when suddenly an extremely handsome, imposing man entered. His clothes were brilliantly white, his hair jet black. No one in Medina had ever seen him before. He wasn't a local, yet his clothes and hair showed no signs of travel. Everyone stared as he walked straight to the Prophet, sat directly in front of him, and said, "O Muhammad, tell me about Islam." After the man left, the Prophet asked the companions, "Do you know who that was?" That was Angel Gabriel, come to teach you your religion. Gabriel had asked about Islam, Iman, excellence, Ihsan, and finally, when will the day of judgment come? The Prophet replied, "The one being asked knows no more than the questioner," meaning only Allah knows. Gabriel said, "Then tell me its signs." Everything discussed up to this point had been explained before, as this happened near the end of the Prophet's life when almost the entire Quran had been revealed. But what came next, the signs of Qiyamah, was new information, more relevant to us than to the companions. They didn't see these signs fulfilled in their lifetimes. We are seeing them now. Gabriel didn't come just to teach the companions. He came to teach us, the Muslims witnessing these signs today. The Prophet replied, "When a slave woman gives birth to her master," interpreted by many scholars as children treating their parents like servants, "and when barefoot, poor shepherds compete with each other in constructing tall buildings." Gabriel said, "You have spoken the truth," and left. The companions searched for him, but he was never seen again. The Prophet specifically mentioned barefoot, poor shepherds, the Bedouins of Arabia. In that era, they were called the Badu, nomadic tribes who lived far from other Arab communities, constantly traveling with their animals, never settling in one place. This was shocking because Bedouins were among the poorest tribes in all of Arabia, not just then, but for 1,000 years afterward. The companions were bewildered. How could society's poorest class compete in building tall structures? After the Prophet's death, the rightly guided caliphate spread across the world, becoming the greatest superpower, larger than Alexander the Great's empire or Julius Caesar's Rome. The Bedouins spread worldwide, but their largest population remained in Arabia. Time passed. Their culture didn't change. They continued their nomadic lifestyle for another 1,000 years. During the final days of the Ottoman Caliphate, as the world moved from old ways into the industrial age, Sultan Abdul Hamid II initiated strong reforms to modernize the Muslim world. He launched many projects, including a train from Istanbul, Medina. But one obstacle remained: the Bedouins. These Bedouins had even massacred 20,000 pilgrims in 1757. 707. The Ottomans tried to change their culture, settle them permanently instead of letting them wander nomadically. The Bedouin tribes hated Ottoman reforms. Eventually, Ibn Saud, who would become Saudi Arabia's first king, united the Bedouins, formed an army, and, with British help, conquered the entire region we now call Saudi Arabia. A few years later, oil was discovered in these lands. Overnight, these Bedouins, who previously had nothing, became the wealthiest people on earth. Many became millionaires and billionaires, but they realized oil wouldn't last forever. It would run out, and with it, all their luxury. So Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid of Dubai, from a Bedouin tribe, he proudly stated this in a Gulf Times interview, transformed Dubai from an oil-dependent economy to tourism and business. Within years, Dubai became one of the world's best cities. Then came Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building ever constructed by humans. For 3,800 years, Egypt's pyramids held this title. Then, a European church broke the record, followed by the Eiffel Tower and the World Trade Center. But Burj Khalifa surpassed them all. Seeing Dubai's success, Saudi Arabia copied the model. They built the world's fourth tallest building directly in front of the Kaaba in Mecca. Soon after, they announced Jeddah Tower, also called Kingdom Tower, which will surpass Burj Khalifa, making Saudi Arabia #1 again. Heading this project is Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, formerly one of the world's richest Arabs, from a Bedouin tribe. Dubai countered by announcing a new building taller than both Burj Khalifa and Jeddah Tower, and so it continues. Every few months, Arab countries announce new skyscraper projects. They don't even reveal the heights anymore, fearing other Arab nations will immediately announce something taller, a fierce competition. To build the tallest buildings, almost all these projects are led by people with ties to those same Bedouin tribes, and everything happening today was foretold 1400 years ago when the prophet told Gabriel and the companions, one day these Bedouins, barefoot, poor shepherds today, will compete with each other in constructing tall buildings. This sign of Qiyamah was so important that Angel Gabriel himself came to teach it to Muslims, and today we're witnessing the fulfillment of this prophecy with our own eyes. The end is not just coming, it's being built, floor by floor, in the deserts of Arabia.
Follow for discovering more interesting stories from history.